So I am currently reading Forever Amber by Kathleen Windsor, and I just wanted to turn on the camera and tell you why I started reading this. So when I was a teenage girl, I used to have this hyperfixation with this classics channel called Turner Classic Movies. And one of the movies that showed up that caught my attention was Forever Amber. And the TMC, when they are presenting a movie, they will have somebody sort of a preface or behind the scenes information about the making of the movie. And one thing that he mentioned was that this was supposed to make Gone with the Wind numbers, right? The projections they had for this epic historical romance. And though it didn't touch Gone with the Wind, like I don't think anything's touching Gone with the Wind, but there is some similarity. The character of Amber and the journey she goes through in 1660 England is very similar to how we follow Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. And watching the movie, I would say it's even more interesting because I would say it's even more compelling. And I've always wanted to at least read the book because I did read Gone with the Wind, and that was amazing read. And if this is similar, of course I want to read that. And the writing style isn't similar. I think the Gone with the Wind's writing style is impeccable, but the writing style is solid. The storytelling is really, really solid. I'm enjoying myself. So I just wanted you to know what led me here, and I'll let you know quarter by quarter how my reading experience is going so far.
Do you see that? It says the end. Okay. That was 900 pages of reading, and the way it ended really pissed me off. Let's start from the beginning. It's about a woman in 17th century England. Her name is Amber St. Clair, and she is a child born to a lord and lady who died from personal to political events brought about by England's Civil War. Amber is not told that she is of nobility, and it has all to do about the events that happened because of this war, why she is not told. But she is made to be raised by farmers, by a farmer family. But she's only 16, and only 16 in her farmer community. She is aware of her pulchritude, of her beauty, and we already get a first sense of her, of how that appeals, to her ego and her vanity, and how she can have pretty much all the boys in the farming community wrapped around her little finger. Basically, Amber understands somewhat that her beauty is social currency. It appears I have lost the footage where I explained after Amber, once it's established to us that Amber understands that her beauty has social currency, at least in the farming community. In comes a group of cavaliers, I believe they were called, and amongst them is a fella named Bruce, not a fella, but a Lord Carleton and Lord Almsbury. Okay, and Amber is completely struck by Lord Carleton. He is struck by her because she's a beautiful young girl, a PYT, and basically she convinces him to take her to London. Okay, and that is where, of course, he starts an affair with her. So he leaves when she is pregnant, and he does leave her some money, but because Amber has no sense of financial literacy, a 16-year-old girl with more money than she could ever imagine in her life, pregnant, she pretty much, with luxurious taste also, she loses it, through marriage to another man. So she's left in London alone, virtually pennilessness, and left to figure it out. But it helps that she is very, very pretty. So she uses her social currency to figure it out. And that is pretty much what we watch. Well, what we read throughout the book. Just from the top of my head, right? She marries a man to sort of mask the fact that she is pregnant out of wedlock, right? Like 3 months pregnant out of wedlock. She obviously despises him and he despises her. He only married her for the money they had, giving them the impression that she's a heiress. So she loses that money. Yeah, she is in a lot of debt because of that man and his aunt. So she goes to jail. I think it's called Newgate. is where she goes, and in jail, because again she's very very pretty, she runs into, what's his name, Blackjack, Black something, and he is again part of the underworld, let's say king of the underworld, right? He takes her under his wing and pretty much buys her way out of jail, but not for free, right? They had a plot in mind where they're going to have her use again her social currency, her UT, to kind of lure men to dark alleys and have them be robbed by Blackjack, right? And she, her, is this Blackjack, another woman, like the accountant of this underworld business that they have going on, just robbing affluent men. She's making them a lot of money, so much so that they like ran out the last girl that they had that they were using. And of course, I should mention that Amber is in relations with him, right? She's in relations pretty much with every man that she is dependent on to survive. So what happens is Blackjack gets caught and he gets hanged. So she has to move on, I believe, to a student. Yes, and while she's living with that student, she becomes an actress at this theater, which gains her a lot of attention, a lot of notoriety, I guess with like affluent society, basically. After that stage, I think the student gets caught by his father, and his father run her out. But that's okay, because while being an actress, Amber has been able to capture the heart of a captain who is pretty much the only lover in this book that absolutely loves her, that loves her with every fiber of his being, okay? So much so that when Lord Carlton comes back, now Lord Carlton, I think he comes back every now and then. I don't know if this is like the first time he comes back, but when he does come back, I think the captain finds out and then challenges Amber to a duel. They duel, he dies, the captain dies. She has some trouble, yeah, finding another man who would keep her. And I think what happens after that is she does find, I mean, she still has an act. Well, she's still working as an actress, and she's still able to make some money prostituting herself to other men, right? But to find another man who would really be her sponsor is, I believe, was a merchant, the richest merchant in England, I believe. She caught the attention of and the charms of, basically, but of course by hiding her actress past and pretending that she's a lady of quality. And then after him, and then he dies. He dies, and she's left with a baby who is Lord Carlton's baby, because again, Lord Carlton was in business with this merchant that she married. So she gets to meet him again and have rendezvous with him behind the backs of her lovers. Pretty much each time the captain finds out, this merchant never finds out. Okay, but this merchant dies, so she has to find another sponsor, and she finds an earl. Okay, an earl who marries her for beauty, but also her money, because he's poor, but he has a title. So Amber also likes the idea of becoming a countess when she marries him, and that's exactly what happens. The guy is impotent, so he can't get it up. Amber resents him, and he resents her. Oh, and he's very controlling. So Amber has experiences no agency under this man, right? So she already has a sour idea of marriage. She absolutely hates it now. He is the shining example of why Amber prefers to avoid marriage for herself, right? So London goes up in flames, and in those events where she gets to hide, well, they're not in London, they're in the country, but he's in London, Amber goes to London, and in those events she gets the opportunity to kill him. Warranted, because he did try to poison her and did poison his son to death when they found out they were having an affair behind his back, right? So she gets to kill him and sort of cover it up, and by the idea that his body was burned in the London fires. And after that, she's still a countess, though. She's still a countess, so she gets to make her way back into court. There was one initial time, again, he's controlling, and he didn't want the embarrassment, I guess, the dishonor of his wife being, what's his name, mistress of the king. But now that he's dead, it's full go. She is now mistress of the king when she's welcomed back into court. Yeah, and she's comfortable. She's in a comfortable spot. She's not like Barbara. She's not like the other mistress of the king had, where she is hoping for the king to marry her. She's actually feels that way towards Lord Carlton. So yeah, Amber is set. She has the life that she wants, right? Unmarried, yet not answering. Well, no, she's married, but not answering to any man. Wealthy, gets to live the lifestyle that she has, gets to indulge in her vanity, with expensive dresses and adornments and balls and people. Mistress of the king, is status, is influence. So she gets that. She becomes, if you will, a 17th century influencer. Okay, becoming mistress of the king. She went from a farmer's girl to a countess in 17th century, where that usually does not happen. Okay, but there is still one thing she hasn't had, and that is Lord Carlton. One thing I forgot to mention about her and Lord Carlton, like somewhere in the book, a plague happens and she pretty much nurses him to the plague. Yeah, when he has the plague, she catches the plague herself. And even though he's still weak, they pretty much nurse each other. And I even thought, along with Amber, that would change the dynamics of the relationship where Lord Carlton has no intentions of marrying her, no intentions of showing any real loyalty to her, and that doesn't happen. I'm not surprised because I already have an understanding of, I think I do have an understanding of how the male mind works, right? The male mind is very compartmentalized, where you have a girl to mess around with and a girl to marry. And I think Lord Carlton is a shining example of that. Amber was a girl to mess around with, and no matter what happens, that's all she will always be. I don't I don't understand why she can't understand that about how men pretty much think. Again, the heart wants what it wants or else it does not care. Like, that is the hard rule. And I, unfortunately, at my age 25, have not experienced being in love with somebody to even get a inkling of understanding of why Amber is still trying to hold out her heart for Lord Carlton, and despite him making it very, very clear what he intends for her. It ends with Lord Carlton eventually getting married, right? And he marries a woman of noble birth, very, very beautiful, Lady Carlton, and very, I guess, compared to Amber, very chaste. Not chaste, but an honorable woman. And even in that, Amber will not accept the reality that Lord Carlton belongs to somebody now, that he has no intentions of marrying her, nor is she really in of his favor, right? But she just does not get that reality. And eventually her enemies use that as an advantage to manipulate her, to get her out of court, because they don't like her influence she has over the court and over the king. And the book ends with her going back out there, going, like, leaving her life at court, right, to go to America, to Virginia, in Summerhill, to see Lord Carlton. So she's gonna go there and she's gonna be in for the shock of her life to realize that the Lady Carlton, a mess still awaits her there. And I could get mad at Amber, but then I have to think about Lord Carlton because the mess, he put himself into this mess, okay, where this young girl, this 16-year-old girl, 16 to 26, is completely obsessed with him, right? If he would have had a little self-control, yeah, not impregnating people, okay, he would have never, like, he knew his ambitions in the beginning was to marry an honorable woman, an honorable woman with noble blood, for the good of his name. If he knew those intentions, then he ought to have the self-control to be very, very careful of the kind of woman he brings into his life, especially understanding the effect he has on women. It was really, really, how do I say this? Like, it really, really hit me that he has no self-control when he had relations with the merchant's daughter. Yes, Amber's husband's daughter, like the merchant one, okay? She was obsessed with him as well, and I had the impression that he sees her as a young girl, yes, simply obsessed with him and nothing else, okay, and was trying to be the adult in the situation in in his interactions with her, right? Not leading her on where she can ruin herself, and but not trying to hurt her. That was my impression of Lord Carlton and how he was handling that little girl. comes to find out, said little girl, not little girl, but like teen girl, 17, I don't know what old she was, but she was still of age for marriage. When Lord Carlton was going to go away on another trip, she made like a desperate attempt to visit his apartments and get him to stay. And as it turns out, he had relations with her because she comes back pregnant. Like, Lord Carlton, come on now. Yeah, come on now. He's too messy. So when I read the ending, I was dissatisfied, but you know what? Yeah, looking over at Lord Carlton and the belief that this is his fault, this is what he deserves, right? He knew better than to take a 16-year-old girl from the farm over to London, impregnate her and leave. Okay, and now he gets what he gets, a girl who is obsessed with him. And even no matter how clear he makes it, he wants nothing to do with her, she is still going to make go be where he is, make herself known. So maybe I am happy with this ending. The ending is what Lord Carlton deserves. Yeah, Amber will not let him live peacefully in the life he set up for himself, as he should not have, because of the mess he allowed of his life in the way to getting there. Yeah, he should have had the discipline, he should have had self-control. End of story. The events of the story really made me think about real life. The heart wants what it wants, but it does not care. I have never even experienced my heart wanting another man in that way, so I know I can't say much. I think when I experience it, I will understand, right? But I also got to understand that I may not want to experience it as much as I thought I did. Yeah, understanding, well, getting a preview of how it might derail my life, derail my ambitions, the way Amber has let herself get derailed of the life that she had built for herself. This lifetime is not complete until I have that man. I imagine that I might be struck with those feelings. Will I ever betray myself for that man to gain the complete life that I want? Like, will that ever happen to me? And I think if that was ever to happen to me, if that's ever in the cards for me to fall in love, what Amber allowed of herself will never allow of me, because now I get to really get perspective on the patheticness, right? Amber is amazing, a social genius from her ways, again, to climb the ladder into a farmer's wife to a countess. She deserves her dues, a woman in her time period. Her early perspective that being the good girl that society wants you to be doesn't really pay as well as being the bad girl. Okay. And that is something that holds true today. So how about this? Yeah. What's his name? Yeah. John Green once said that about the Great Gatsby, he asked the question that if Gatsby great, and he said that Gatsby is a great man, but even great men should be careful what they worship, right? Seeing how he ended, having everything and losing everything because not having the one thing that he wanted, the one thing that he worshipped. I would say this story has the same messaging, right? Has the same consequence. I think Amber is truly a great woman, but even she needs to be careful what she worships, because look at what she was willing to throw away for a man who made it very, very clear that she's not it. And that is how I will explain this book, okay? This is a female 17th century London, England version of The Great Gatsby, except nobody really dies. Well, at least she doesn't die. She just is stupid. When I began reading this book, I was under the impression that it would be a read like Gone with the Wind. I enjoyed myself, like I did when I read Gone with the Wind, but Gone with the Wind is still, I would say, maybe better written based off my faint memory when I read it when I was 17 or so, like a teenager or so. And I think the circumstances that Scarlett O'Hara has as a lady in the antebellum South, and her ignorance and the ignorance of all the people was a bit more interesting to see. How about this? Scarlett O'Hara's narcissism throughout the story and how it's being interacted with, and how it has been rewarded and punished throughout the story, is more interesting of a read than Forever Amber, when she gains through her narcissism, never really loses. When she loses, she uses her social currency to regain. It's just she doesn't gain what she wants. Gone with the Wind is way more dynamic of a story, following a narcissist, than Forever Amber. But I will say that Amber is a lot more likable than Scarlett O'Hara. But when men start to die because of Amber's stupidity, her selfishness, self-absorbedness, I really didn't appreciate that. I really didn't like her, But you know what? I think her audacity, her confidence, her social skills was enviable more with me, and I guess aspirational, with me. So I did tend to like her a bit more than Scarlett O'Hara. How Gone with the Wind ends, as we know, it ends with her realizing that realizing that she is in love with Rhett Butler, that her love for Ashley Wilkes was a fantasy and not based on reality. So there we go. We get some character growth in that way from Scarlett O'Hara, even though, but she realizes it's too late. She has made her mess. She has burned her bridges. But like Amber, she still believes, right? There's still like a hint of delusion because of how she was able to still make her way, that she'll be able to get Rhett Butler back, right? Tomorrow is just another day, and the story ends there. But it ends with, for me, the confidence that she got what she deserved. She's not getting Rhett Butler back. Rhett Butler made it very, very clear that he is done with her, and I believe him, and I feel like there's no undoing what was resolute in that ending. With this book, same thing. You'd think that she burned bridges, but I'm not confident that she will not succeed, still having access to him. I'm not confident she will not succeed, because he has shown himself to lack self-control, and he made it clear to even the wife that Amber is a dream mistress, but not a wife, and that gave a lot of confidence, a lot of assuredness to Lady Carlton that she will always be the wife. So now that Amber is running over to Lord Carlton, I'm just left to think that she's going to Virginia to just be this man's mistress. Okay, like you'd think, I don't think Lord Carlton would have any pushback, really. Like, he'll be surprised, he'll be angry, but then she'll get a house there, and then now that she's in Virginia, he's going to still have them compartmentalized as my wife and my mistress. That's how it's going to go from now on. Lord Carlton has not showed any character growth of self-control. So this doesn't touch Gone with the Wind, but it was entertaining. It was a good read. I think I gained something from it. Again, I gained the perspective of what it's like to chase your dream man. I've learned that maybe it's not a good idea to do it. It's not worth doing it, It'll be more worth it to settle, but not really settle. I don't like that word, but to get with a man who loves you, and basically the captain, right? I like to think that my dream man, or a quality man that loves me, if I can't get the dream man, I will be satisfied with the quality man that loves me, and if I didn't feel that way before, I feel that now that I read this book. Okay, I have gained. And the heart wants what it wants. It shall not care, or else it doesn't care. I shall have the discipline to make sure it cares about holding on to the quality man that is head over heels in love with me. And I love him because he loves me. Okay. I shall not be like Amber. And I guess I'm going to end there. Okay. Bye-bye.